Hello again. I spoke yesterday about the weird way that advertisements in this country have a huge number of black people in them when they only represent a small percentage of the population. The situation is the same in the United States, of course, where films and television programs and advertisements all have a grossly disproportionate number of black people in them, so that anybody unfamiliar with the actual figures might easily suppose that at least half the people in America are black. In fact, around 13% are, which is fewer than 1 in 6. All this, on the face of it, is really odd, and many people find it annoying. The explanation, though, is very simple, but requires a basic knowledge of modern ideology. It ties in too with the debates on immigration. Since the 19th century, the basic unit in the world, politically, has been the nation-state or country. So we have Britain and France, Italy and Germany, the United States and Canada, all separate countries or nation-states. These nation-states were also, sometimes tacitly, and on other occasions explicitly, ethno-states. That is to say, nationality coincided with ethnicity, and Italians, for example, belong not just to a nationality, they were also a particular racial type. We have an image in our minds of a typical Italian, just as we know what a German might look like or a Swedish person. Things were a bit different in Africa, of course, because there the nation-states, such as Nigeria or Kenya, were created and imposed upon the indigenous inhabitants by white colonialists. In the same way, islands of the Caribbean, like Jamaica, were invented by white Europeans and were not an expression of the national aspirations of those who lived there. Italy was created by the Italians, but Nigeria wasn't created by Nigerians. It is this sort of thinking, together with other strands of ideology and politics, which has led to the idea of a global community, one with no national or ethnic boundaries. The European community is part of this way of thinking, as the borders between the various nation-states have been theoretically abolished, and all the people dwelling in Europe are now Europeans rather than Frenchmen and Germans. Globalism, though, goes further than this. Suppose we got rid of all borders and dismantled the very idea of the nation-state entirely and thought of ourselves as part of one world, citizens of the world rather than citizens of Britain or citizens of France. How would we view the world in that case? One economy, one planet, and perhaps one government. The idea is enormously attractive to some, but horrifying to others. Successive British governments, without announcing it outright, have subscribed to this idea of one world. From that perspective, all talk about immigration, whether legal or illegal, is foolish and mistaken. People who move from Manchester to Cornwall are not immigrants, are they? This is because they are just moving about within a single polity. If we belong to the view that our world should be one system without frontiers or borders, then in the same way it makes no sense to call people from Africa who come to Britain immigrants. It is one world, and should all be run in the same way with the same freedoms for everybody. It is this worldview which many people in positions of authority are now operating from. Looked at from this perspective, it makes perfect sense if our advertisements have many black people in them, in the same way that our films and television programs increasingly do. This is because, to use a modern catchphrase, non-white people are the global majority. If we are viewing the world as one territory, forgetting all about individual countries, then it is only reasonable that the global majority of non-white people should be more prominent in many ways than white people, who represent only a fraction of the world. I do not say that I agree with this idea. I do not. But once you grasp the point of view, then a lot of the things to which we object fall into place quite naturally, and you understand why the political class in Britain all subscribe to a globalist view. Of course, some countries, Israel among them, adhere to their own ideas on ethnostates, which some people find very annoying. They're jealous of Israel for being able to manage this. I hope that I've explained this idea clearly, because it's an important part of the modern world which makes everything else fall into place and explains the immigration policies, for example, of places as far apart as Australia and the United States.